Hey, this is Dr. Drew, and you were listening to This Life
with Bob Forrest
and Dr. Drew.
Here we are.
We have a new sponsor, and we're kind of excited about these guys. They are Last House Sober Living. And, Bob, what do we always say about the treatment
If
centers?
you're doing your job right, they don't like you.
They don't like it. It should not be satisfying. It should not be gratifying. And that's what we love about Last House Sober Living in Los Angeles. It's a structured program. It's based on accountability, on action. All the places that we always complain about are gratifying, right? That they give you too much nice, which is okay if you're also holding accountable, but it doesn't usually work like that. They, of course, want to combat learned helplessness, device dependency, meaning they don't let them have their phones all the time, which is, again, yes. Codependent family systems, check. The community challenges the addict with disciplinary systems that teaches that there are consequences to their actions. The program isn't easy. It's difficult. Bob, it just reminds me of what we used to do. I just remember we used to just kick people out or ask them to leave. If they didn't want to be a part of it, fine. That's fine.
Our overhead was low.
Yeah. So if you are looking for a program that aligns with many of the characteristics that we think lead to successful recovery, take a look at Last House. To learn more, visit thelasthouse.net. That is THE, thelasthouse.net. Check them out today. We have somebody from that program. His name is Chris Kirby. Came through the program. And tell us a little bit about your recovery and what happened, and if you want, if you're comfortable doing that, what you're doing now.
Absolutely, Dr. Drew. I'm really excited to be here. Like you guys said, we're dealing with a disease that is, characterized by ego, entitlement, and selfishness. And a lot of the programs nowadays are really kind of coddle addicts.
Massaging that.
Yeah, 5-star resort style accommodations. And, I'm just tired of seeing people die.
Well, okay, in that brief couple sentences, you just articulated things that Bob and I talk about all the time.
Right.
One is don't die. We're interested in people not dying. That we've gotten sick of that. And two, this idea, I don't know how to articulate this without sounding like you said, like you keep a smile on my face while we say it, but there's all this coddling. Oh, the poor paramedic. No. When they're in their disease, what'd you call it? You said ego. You listed a great list. Ego, selfishness,
entitlement,
grandiosity. All that is that's what they're manifesting in the disease, and that's what needs to be hit. It needs to be confronted.
Well, I'm going to say it. We're dealing with millennials these days. As if it wasn't bad enough to be a drug addict, we're dealing with millennial drug addicts, and that's where we see the learned helplessness, where they sit around and want mom to do it. They complain about how they can't do it until somebody does it for them. So it's
Bob. Does that sound familiar?
Well, that's what I deal with every day, and it's a fine line. One thing, do you guys take insurance or you don't?
We don't take
because
insurance.
The insurance dictates that kind of nonsense of
gratifying.
How are you feeling today?
Yeah.
How are you feeling? All that therapeutic nonsense. Whereas before, when we were doing it, the insurance company didn't really dictate care. They just dictated days
duration
of care, right?
Yeah.
And now they micromanage.
Oh boy!
It's sober living to not allow kids to have their phones in a sober living. You are a rebel in an industry of scum, sir.
You're being abusive. How dare you?
No, we should definitely let them Tinder and be on Facebook.
Maybe order up some drugs online while they're at it.
I've seen
Craigslist.
I've seen it too. Yeah, Craigslist, whatever. But I'm glad to hear.
So how do you get? I'm really interested. How do you get people to sign up for it
and stay?
Well, the family piece. That's the huge piece that's being missed.
But they're sick motherfuckers too.
Yeah, tell me about it. Well, I'm the director of admissions. So
I cussed. I'm sorry, Susan.
Facebook.
They are really sick. You have no idea what millennial parents are like.
No, we're looking at them.
You're looking
at a couple of them.
This is your world.
I'm just glad I'm allowed to cuss.
So here's the thing. A couple of incidences have happened in the last 6 months in my life around this kind of bad parenting, where a principal of my kid's school didn't respond as the parents felt she should have, and they tried to run her out of town on a rail and get her out of the principalship. So they do that in treatment all the time now. It's a treatment center's fault. You're being mean to my son. You're picking on him. You ever get that?
Oh, yeah, all the time. and so most of our program is controlling the families. We have a consequence structure that allows the house to pretty much run itself. And the executive leadership's job is to basically manage the families, and they continue to try and control their loved one, right? When all the evidence over the years shows them that they can't do that in this idea of control, and I can control his disease and I can make him happy. I mean, I get it. It's a mother's natural instinct to want to make their son happy, to want him to be safe.
Yeah, fearful if she doesn't do something, he or she won't be safe.
Right, and then the son plays on that in order to stay sick and in order to keep getting drugs.
I don't even think about it as the individual playing it. I just think it as a feature of the illness. It's just it's an interpersonal disease. It plays on everything it's got. Anything you can get, it will bring in.
And there's these new mutations of it, which are the parents, the best friend parents, I call them.
Oh boy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're the advocates. They're their child's advocate. They have been their whole life. The soccer coach wasn't fair to their kid. The school wasn't doing right by their kid. And this just extends out. When you look at the history of the parents of the addicts I deal with, this has been going on throughout the kid's life.
Oh, sure.
Right?
What happened to the parents? What was their... I wonder. We got to look at that.
I think they were neglected. I mean, I am that parent.
Yeah.
You were neglected. You didn't know. You didn't feel nurtured or loved. There was a
So
wholeness that was
the other way.
missing. So then there's a overcompensation.
My mom always told me she wanted to be the mother that she never had.
Right. That's what people do.
There you go.
And so that mom who complains to the soccer coach that her son's not getting enough playing time is the same mom that complains to me that her son doesn't have a job yet and we're not finding him a job quick enough. When it's like, he's supposed to find his own job. Like, give him enough room to grow to his potential. Stop suffocating your child.
You'll love this. We had a client on Celebrity Rehab, and I dealt with the family and the kid for years afterwards, right? And at one point, the mom was mad at the son and said, he needs to get a job at Starbucks. And I said, have you met your son? He couldn't work at Starbucks.
Yeah.
He can barely, walk and chew gum at the same time. He couldn't be a barista. But to her, that was... that was beneath his station in life.
Right.
And he couldn't have functioned there. I think you know who I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah, does the term entitlement ring a bell here with that?
Yeah, entitlement. I was just thinking of all the adjectives you could put in your little list there. That's why I was having you list them: as entitlement, grandiosity, ego, selfishness, self-preoccupation.
Are we talking about the government, or are we talking about kids?
Well, no, calm down. Calm down. Hey, if anybody has a question, they can call in now at 323-649-8268.
I got a question. Where are you guys at? Where are you located?
649-8268.
We're in West Los Angeles. We're in Mar Vista and Playa Vista.
Oh, right near Promises.
Yeah, actually right near Promises.
I heard Promises going out of business.
No kidding.
Yeah, they closed the outpatient building on Barrington.
So the outpatient program is done?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to just be primary residential treatment.
And how long do you want people to stay? Or do you make
so
them
are you
commit to a certain
working with Patricia at Promises
Yeah,
and get their
absolutely.
clients?
Yeah, Patricia
I knew there
and I
was a
worked there.
connection there because Patricia's old school.
Old school, 12 step.
She and I were in help
I
together.
remember
Okay,
Patricia.
all right.
I remember her. I knew her back in the day, too. So how long do you want people to stay, or do they have to sign up for a certain period of time?
Well, we say a 90-day commitment because anything longer than that scares people. But the truth is we graduate our residents with a year sober.
Great.
They've worked all 12 steps. They
Great.
move into an apartment with another graduate. They're paying for it. They're not calling mom
How many
and
beds?
dad. We have 44 beds
Oh, my
throughout our
goodness.
3 houses.
Oof.
Yeah.
So did you pick up their sober living that's right on the street of Promises? That
No,
big,
no.
huge. You remember that?
Yeah. Things just
There was
grand-
a sober
it's-
living, Drew. When you walked in, it looked like a regular residential house, and it just kept going for like a city block. And it
Wow.
had how many beds in there? Like
I don't know.
24
It
beds.
had like 15 parking spaces, and in LA, that's like gold.
And they gave it up. Promises gave it up. So everybody's going primary residential. So sober living is going to go back to being sober living.
Primary residential, and then you follow sober living will follow the primary.
There won't be any of that
So
Florida
residential,
model.
yeah,
Nobody can afford to do that Florida model anymore. Provide
residential
housing.
will be what we did in Celebrity Rehab. It'll be exactly that.
Yeah, but they didn't pay. You got to get.
No, I'm just saying. But residential will be what we used to do in the hospital.
Yes.
And now they do it in a residential setting, which
Yes.
we showed clearly
That's
you can
fine.
do
You
no
can do it
problem. Yeah, it's
easily.
no problem.
But what had happened was all the treatment programs opened up Florida models and have had them for like the last 7-8 years.
Which is full spectrum.
It's all the PHP, IOP,
Yeah.
OP,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The insurance industry countered about 8 months ago, and they're just not going to pay the compensation they were for outpatient. So that makes it the services that all these places were providing they can't do. You're losing money. you can't provide housing and food and transportation and all this coddling. So now it gives the opportunity for real sober living to come back.
Yeah.
And say, you don't want to be here, then leave. Here's a trash bag.
Like real boundaries, not just signing a contract that says my behavior is going to improve. We want, and a lot of it is, a lot of people say the same thing I say, you know, structure, peer accountability.
A lot of programs,
yeah. Anybody can have a beautiful website and a director of admissions that can talk the talk, but it's like what I talk about with parents is what does that look like in practice? Yeah. Right? And so, for example, our residents that are working and are contributing towards rent at the house are required to go to at least 6 meetings a week. So what happens if they miss a meeting, right? So at the last house, their big brother or another resident at the house actually writes that down on a board back at the house, and then they would get assigned a short essay, something on integrity, punctuality, something thought-provoking. And it's designed to be a real consequence because so many of these young men have had their consequences mitigated.
Is it all male program or is it
all male?
All male program.
Men only.
We didn't specify that. Okay,
yes.
good. You're going to open a female program eventually, or?
You know, I get asked to do that all the time, and we've looked into it, and the question is will the same structure work for women? And there's a lot of other underlying issues with women regarding, personality disorders and things that might not work. But, there are a couple other good women's programs out there that we still work with. So.
I'm excited about it. You were ahead of the curve. This has been coming a long time where it's just sober living, right?
Yeah.
So basically,
I was thinking about how hard it is, though, to get these dudes off the couch and into the meetings.
But what's polluted the water of sober living is they have to be sitting in the outpatient group so the company can bill their insurance, and they can't get jobs. They can't go to school because they always have to be an outpatient. Right. This is just I went to my first sober living in 1988, and it was like 4 twin beds to a room out in North Hollywood. I wasn't really a North Hollywood guy at the time. And that's where you went. You didn't know any better. That's what sober living was. If they would have had a nice house in the Hollywood Hills with free food and girls, I would have gone there.
Sure, yeah.
And so now,
and you would have complained about the same things at the place in Hollywood as the place in North Hollywood
because they both had a curfew or something.
They both wanted you to be sober.
Yeah, well, that's another problem.
The worst problem.
How do you deal with that? Because there's a lot of people going to treatment that don't want to be sober.
Well, for me, when I got to the house, the cool thing was I had friends. Like I made friends pretty immediately, and it's because of that structure that we had, where we're building. We're teaching guys how to be assertive with the writing of strikes and the peer accountability. And so it broke me off from these old ideas I had about what brotherhood meant, about what loyalty meant, about what honesty meant, because that was snitching, right? You were snitching on me.
Yeah.
But when it became cool to, do a 4-step, when it became cool to meditate, when the other guys were like, dude, we don't want to hear about your war story. Like, what'd you think of the speaker at Marina Center? And they taught me how to, what was cool wasn't the way I was living, but to get a job. It wasn't cool to hound my mom for money for cigarettes. It something changed within me, and like a true brotherhood formed.
How long did you stay there?
A year.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm still friends with a lot of the guys that I met in my first 90 days there, and this is 5 years later.
There you go. So it just reminds me of the 1980s. That's what it was. Real treatment's coming back.
Real treatment that you can funnel people into without getting diverted into other stuff. Yeah. Well, Chris, appreciate it very much. Chris Kirby, again.
I'm assuming you don't allow Suboxone.
No, we're absolutely.
I didn't even ask that, yeah. It's abstinence.
Yeah, abstinence-based program. We teach people how to live life on life's terms.
What do you recommend?
How dare you?
Just personally, what do you recommend when you meet somebody at the Marina Center that's on Suboxone considering themselves sober? How do you deal with that? How do you address it?
Oh gosh, Bob, that's a big question, and I don't want to get vilified by my industry if I get too big of an answer. But as somebody who was in some of the first Suboxone groups at age 22,
you were?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
age 22.
Go ahead, tell us.
Everybody was on Suboxone, and the group kept getting bigger. It never got smaller, and this was, and people would just
no one ever graduated.
Of course not.
Exactly, and it's all 21, 22, 23-year-old, young men and women, where it's like there is a better way.
Right. It's just people can choose the path they choose, not where you are. Your program is abstinence-based, period.
Yeah.
And you would prefer, and with the three of us, would prefer to see people have a full and complete recovery. We would love return to a flourishing life on life's terms, right?
Right. And when
Which
you look at what's worked for 82 years with
Yeah.
Alcoholics Anonymous,
That's right.
it's like it's been showing us the easier, softer way isn't the best way to
I have
recovery.
decided, by the way, one of the big solutions to our opioid problem is to unravel the attack on 12-step. I'm sick and tired of that. I'm sick and tired of it. It's free, everybody. You're wondering about healthcare? It's free. It is free, and it has worked for 82 years. Why wouldn't you give that a try? For God's sakes.
Christy, when we were with him, seemed like he's reinventing it.
Who?
Right?
Who? Christy?
Christy.
I think
have you heard about
he's
this
backdooring
thing?
it. He's
No,
sort of
what-
he's sliding
Basically,
into it.
he's assigning anybody who ODs in a hospital a sponsor.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
crazy.
But he's calling them a coach.
Just change the terminology
Well,
to get
because-
to the millennials.
Yeah.
Well,
and
but
also to
no,
give-
but all the coaches are sober people from AA.
I know what they are, of course. And their goal is to get everybody into the program, and so that's a good thing. Anyway. We got to wrap up. Jay Moore's here. We're going to go to him. But Chris, I appreciate you being part of this.
Awesome.
Thank you so much,
and
guys.
The
Thank you,
the
Dr.
website
Joe.
is thelasthouse.net, thelasthouse.net, and let it be your first house.
Yeah.
All right. See ya.
Perfect.
And we'll take a little break right back.
Great.